how we're harming the planet and ourselves, human-caused changes in the global environment. Such's deforestation and air pollution are increasingly threatening our own health and well-being, according to Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health's Samuel Myers. From temperate forests and tundras to deserts and marshes, the United States is a vast country with many different kinds of ecosystems. These ecosystems provide us with resources naturally that would otherwise cost us $125 to $145 trillion a year to maintain. This includes food production, clean air and water, carbon capture, as well as landscapes for tourism and recreation. However, each of these ecosystem services are threatened by the progression of climate change and the continuance of other harmful human practices, such as logging and pollution. This is because they are disrupting natural, regulatory cycles as well as killing plants and animals. Effects on plants and animals in general. As the temperature of the Earth increases, populations of species globally will begin to shift northwards, around 3.8 miles per 10 years, and upwards in elevation to alleviate the heat stress. If species are not able to shift their habitat northwards or upwards, their populations may reduce or go extinct. The pika, a hamster-like mountainous animal, is climbing about 4.75 ft per year to escape the heat, but is quickly running out of available height on the mountain. This elevated temperature will also change the timing of certain tiu species' natural schedule. Northeastern birds are migrating 13 days earlier than usual in 16 out of 23 studied. Butterfly species have also begun to migrate earlier. Why is this important? Because birds, like the ruby-throated hummingbird, may starve to death as their food sources may not be available earlier in the season. Climate change also encourages the growth of many invasive species, as they are better able to adapt to changing temperatures and outcompete native neighbors. Infamous examples of this are murder hornets, officially named the northern giant hornet, and the lionfish in the northern Atlantic. These invasives feed on our essential pollinators, honey, bees, and Floridian reef fish, respectively. Other anthropogenic or human-sourced pollutants like fertilizer and plastics also deeply affect the U.S.'s marine environments. Red algae blooms fueled by fertilizer. At runoff cause mass marine organism deaths from toxins and decreased available oxygen. It also harms our industries, as fishing and tourism are not possible during blooms. The destruction of our livelihoods, farming and food availability, has been suffering from the increase in global temperature through heat, and will cause an increase in food prices by up to 3.2%. Challenges in food production will only increase as climate change progresses. Furthermore, the fishing industry will take a big hit as fish shift their habitats northwards because of warming ocean temperatures. There is also a projected 47% loss of cold water fish, sucha salmon and trout, because warming river and lake temperatures destroy their habitats. Ocean acidification will cause stress to shellfish populations, leading to the loss of hundreds of millions of dollars. Natural disasters are on the rise. Rising global temperatures are leading to more severe and more frequent disasters like hurricanes, floods, droughts, and wildfires that threaten humans and our ecosystems. The shifting weather patterns due to climate change are leaving some ecosystems with little precipitation and intense heat, like coral reefs, will also cost the recreation industry $40 billion. Waste footprint. Waste footprint measures the amount of waste generated by people, organizations, or countries. The waste footprint underscores the issue of excessive waste generation and improper disposal. Landfills overflow with non-biodegradable materials. Plastics pollute oceans, and electronic waste poses environmental and health hazards. Recent data reveals the staggering extent of the global waste problem. In 2019, the world generated approximately 900 million metric tons of municipal solid waste, a number projected to increase to 3.40 billion metric tons by 2050 if current trends persist. Plastic waste, a particularly concerning component, and it continues to accumulate in oceans, with estimates suggesting that by 2050, there could be more plastic than fish by weight in the world's oceans. Relating to human-induced changes to the environment, science shows that these processes and systems regulate the stability and resilience of the Earth system, the interactions of land, ocean, atmosphere, and life that together provide conditions upon which our societies and future depend. The concept of planetary boundaries emphasizes that there are limits to the changes humans can impose on the environment and human impacts on Earth without triggering irreversible consequences. These boundaries include issues like climate change, ocean acidification, ozone depletion, and the loss of biosphere integrity. Negative impact of human activities on the environment. Regrettably, the negative impacts of human activities on the environment are numerous and far-reaching. These include deforestation, habitat destruction, air and water pollution, resource depletion, and the release of greenhouse gases, which are leading to climate change. Humans' impact on the environment also contributes to the loss of biodiversity, with species going extinct at an alarming rate. How businesses contribute to environmental damage and degradation. Businesses, both large and small, play a significant role in environmental impact. While they drive economic growth and innovation, they can also contribute to environmental damage through resource-draining operations, greenhouse gas emissions, and unsustainable supply chains. Acknowledging and addressing the impact of humans on climate change and other environmental problems is crucial for businesses committed to sustainability. What is the main reason Earth is dying? Earth-orbiting satellites and new technologies have helped scientists see the big picture, collecting many different types of information about our planet and its climate all over the world. The burning of coal, natural gas, and oil for electricity and heat is the single largest source of global GHG emissions. These are the primary drivers of global warming as they trap heat in the atmosphere and raising Earth's surface temperature. Increased emissions of greenhouse gases have led to a rapid and steady increase in global temperatures, which in turn is causing catastrophic events all over the world, from Australia and the US, experiencing some of the most devastating bushfire seasons ever recorded, locusts swarming across parts of Africa, the Middle East and Asia, decimating crops, and a heat wave in Antarctica that saw temperatures rise above 20 C for the first time. Food waste and loss occur at different stages in developing and developed countries. In developing countries, 40% of food waste occurs at the post-harvest and processing levels, while in developed countries, 40% of food waste occurs at the retail and consumer levels. At the retail level, a shocking amount of food is wasted because of aesthetic reasons. In fact, in the U.S., more than 50% of all produce thrown away in the U.S. is done so because it is deemed to be too ugly to be sold to consumers. This amounts to about 60 million tons of fruits and vegetables. According to a 2023 study, air pollution in South Asia, one of the most polluted areas in the world, cuts life expectancy by about 5 years, including a lack of adequate infrastructure and funding for the high levels of pollution in some countries. Most countries in Asia and Africa, which together contribute about 92.7% of life years, lost globally due to air pollution, lack key air quality standards needed to develop adequate policies. Moreover, just 6.8% and 3.7% of governments in the two continents, respectively, provide their citizens with fully open air quality data. Our oceans absorb about 30% of carbon dioxide that is released into the Earth's atmosphere. As higher concentrations of carbon emissions are released, thanks to human activities such as burning fossil fuels as well as effects of global climate change such as increased rates of wildfires, so do the amount of carbon dioxide that is absorbed back into the sea. The smallest change in the acidity scale can have a significant impact on the acidity of the ocean. Ocean acidification has devastating impacts on marine ecosystems and species, its food webs, and provoke irreversible changes in habitat quality. Once pH levels reach too low, marine organisms such as oysters, their shells and skeleton could even start to dissolve. What destroys the planet the most? 1. The water crisis. 80% of China's water reservoirs are contaminated, and the rest of the world continues to overconsume and contaminate its water supplies. 2. The climate crisis. We are well on our way to a catastrophic 4 degrees rise in temperature by the end of the century, and climate change and its resulting extreme weather conditions contributes to the death by hunger and communicable diseases of 400 people every year, mostly children in developing countries. 3. Ocean warming. The more energy we use, the higher the Earth's temperature, and with this has decreased the sea's oxygen levels and caused the death of the marine life, crucial to the delicate balance of the ecosystem our planet needs to survive and thrive. 4. Fisheries depletion. Overfishing in our seas, rivers and lakes has led to what scientists call eutrophication, or excessive plant growth. The fewer fish we have, the more plants that grow. The more plants that grow, the fewer fish we have, trapping us in a vicious cycle that gives us fewer fish to eat and upsets the delicate balance of the ecosystem our planet needs to survive and thrive. 5. Meat consumption. We are eating more meat than we can sustainably produce, most particularly beef, because farming cows requires lots of land and water, erodes and depletes soil, leads to deforestation, and when cows belch and fart, emits methane, a greenhouse gas which has a 23 times higher negative impact on climate than carbon dioxide, CO2. 6. Population growth. The United Nations predicts that by 2050, the world's population will reach a whopping 9 billion, which means we'll all be competing for increasingly scarce resources. It will be slower and more difficult to mobilize people to change. There will be further environmental pollution and increased political instability. 7. Poverty. Developed countries, including the USA, the UK, and Europe, emit the most greenhouse gases. Yet it is the poorest countries that suffer the most from environmental fallout. 5 billion people in the world still live below the poverty line. 3 billion are living on less than $1 a day, with no access to basic water or energy, and hunger and malnourishment persist for many. Meanwhile, income inequality is rising, leading to heightened tension and social conflict. 8. The energy crisis. Most of our energy comes from coal and natural gas, which cause harmful emissions and further negative climate change, unless we urgently find more sustainable sources of energy for all. What can we do? Climate change threatens both our systems and essential ecosystems. And while there are threats, there are also solutions. Greenhouse gases within the decade is essential to limit warming to 2 degrees C, the predicted threshold for dangerous cascading effects of climate change. On a national and global scale, supporting legislation that decreases fossil fuels and promotes green energy is one of the best ways to help reduce climate change. Acting on climate change puts pressure on legislative bodies and companies to stop using fossil fuels and invest in green energy. Plastic pollution can also be addressed through collective action. Buying reusable alternatives discourages the production of single-use plastics, and investing in high-quality clothing inhibits the growth of fast fashion. It's important to remember natural ecosystems are not only the homes of plants and animals, but are our homes as well.